Well, good morning and welcome to today's intermediary event, Masters of Design, Engineering in Iowa. Thank you to our statewide partners for assisting in the development of today's event. We had the Iowa Business Foundation today. If you have any questions during the event, please use the question and answer feature located in the Zoom webinar taskbar at the bottom of your screen, and we'll be taking a look at those questions and giving those to our panelists as we go on. So I'm going to turn it over to Gina. I'm going to stop my screen sharing and turn it over to Gina to welcome our panelists.
Great, thanks, Stephanie, and thank you all for joining us today. We're going to learn about different types of engineering today, what it takes to get there. I think a lot of students are interested in engineering, but they don't really know what all that entails. We do have a first ever in our live events. Jacob is both an intern and he's planting corn today. I think corn, maybe beans. I'm not sure, I didn't ask. So we will find out from Jacob, but if you each want to just give a brief introduction about yourself, where you work, and a little bit about your current role and how you got there, that would be fantastic. And we will start with Kyle, please.
Hello, so I'm Kyle. I'm from H&I Corporation. I'm a software engineer at this company, and I'm happy to be on this meeting today.
Thank you, Kyle. How about you, Amy? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
And good morning, everybody. My name is Amy Jones. I am an engineering supervisor at John Deere. I've been at Deere for about 11 years, and most of that time I worked on excavators, but currently I work on an operator station team where I lead the teams that are responsible for both supporting our current production products and for developing components that go in cabs all across of our construction and forestry division.
Excellent. And Amy has some really cool photos that we will share a little bit later of some projects that she's been a part of. Jacob, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got to your internship, and what your plans might be for the future.
All right. So yeah, my name is Jacob Taylor from a small town in Iowa. Went to college at William Penn, and one of my professors there helped me get a connection through Musco. So I will intern there 2 years actually next week, so that's pretty cool. Obviously today I took the day off to get some planning done, but I work in industrial engineering.
All right, and we'll get more details about that hopefully as we go on. Jacob, why don't you tell us exactly what is engineering and why you selected the software field for the area of engineering you wanted to go into?
Yeah, so I guess maybe I didn't state that clearly. So I'm in industrial engineering. So that's more like dealing with the product. So what I do currently is we'll design sports fields at Musco with like layouts and locations. And then we'll apply the product that has already been designed to basically the operation. So I guess why I chose the field, I kind of like solving problems and working with materials. So it's been a great fit.
Kyle, tell us a little bit about software engineering and how that might be different than what Jacob's doing with his industrial engineering position.
Yeah, so software engineering is similar to Jacob. It's problem solving, but just in a different way. So for instance, for me as a software engineer, I'll work with integrating different websites and making adjustments when need be, and working with like databases, for instance, with data, and making sure that everything that the business wants is working smoothly on a software side.
Amy, anything you want to add from your perspective? I'm sure you work with a lot of different types of engineers, and you can bring some perspective on how they all work together to create what you're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely. So I'm an electrical engineer by background, but you're right. I work with a wide variety of engineers. I think one thing that you'll hear over and over again today is that engineering is really solving problems. And the kind of engineer you are just tells you what kind of problems you like best and what kind of tools you want to use to solve them. I think when you look at kind of the exciting things to work on, especially now, there's really few things that are just one kind of engineering. Everything from a software feature that involves maybe some software, but probably also has some user experience and industrial components, to something like I work on, like heavy machinery that has very heavy mechanical components, as well as electrical, software, hydraulics, you name it. So that's one of my favorite parts of being an engineer, is that even if you start off in one field, you very quickly get to learn a lot about some of the other things. And it's a field where you kind of get to learn throughout your whole career.
Fascinating. Okay, so what I'm hearing is maybe what type of engineering you start out with that passion, and then you'll have the opportunity to learn from there. Is that correct, Amy?
That's certainly what I've found out to be true.
Fantastic. Well, let's talk specifically. We have a little bit about different branches of engineering, but let's show Amy's pictures and have her walk through some of those exciting projects that she's done in her engineering career.
Sure. So I mentioned that I've worked on excavators for about 10 years up until November of last year. And the product line that I worked on was a brand new one for John Deere. It was a ground up design that was built in our factory in Tianjin, China, and sold exclusively outside of North and South America. So most of our markets are places like China and Russia. The picture you're looking at right now is a capture from a Chinese news site. Last year, when the coronavirus pandemic was beginning in Wuhan, China, there was a huge initiative to build a hospital within about 2 weeks that could support the needs of the people of Wuhan. So if you look at the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see an excavator. It's yellow. It's got the big John Deere symbol on the back, and that's one of my excavators that my team designed and built. So it's one of my favorite things about engineering, is seeing how my products really impact people's lives. And we're very proud to say that the hospital was built, and the pandemic is certainly on a much better track there now. This is a fancy picture of an excavator. I believe this one was taken in Russia, in Siberia. So one of the things that I learned pretty quickly in my career is that you learn a heck of a lot about the problems you need to solve by listening to the people who have the problems. I never would have thought that there was a need for an excavator to survive in 40 and 60 below environments, but there's some folks that are really grateful for things like the heating performance of the cab, and features like remote starting and things like that that are really important to them that I would have never thought about. So even within the context of a product that I've worked on for a decade, there's always something new to learn. And then this one is another excavator. This is in China, in Sichuan. This is an area that was experiencing very heavy flooding. And so the owner of this machine started using it to transport people who were in danger of their lives from floodwaters. So you can see all of the people crammed on top of the excavator. It's certainly not designed to hold this many people, but it was a really proud moment for our team when we realized that we designed something that was robust enough to help save people's lives. So another maybe example of engineering is that you never really know what people are going to use your product for. And so that kind of creative thinking makes it a better product. And this is me as an intern. Like Jacob, I started out as an intern, and that's one of the first skid steers that I ever got to drive. So a lot of times I think that people have a perception that engineering can be very much behind a desk, and that's not been my experience. You know, one of my favorite things on a Friday on a beautiful sunny day is to go out and drive some equipment around, and again, learn how our customers would use our equipment, and then take that and make my designs better.
Thank you for sharing those, Amy. I think that gave us a great perspective on engineering overall. Kyle, I want to go to you and have you tell us about the classes you took to get your degree that helped you get where you are now, and maybe how many years of study you think are necessary to be a software engineer.
Yeah, so a lot of the classes that you take to become a software engineer are both like software engineering classes, so coding classes, and then also just general engineering classes. So a lot of the curriculum, at least I went to the University of Iowa to get my degree, was just general engineering for the first couple of years, and then you start to get into software engineering specific for the last couple. So that includes both math, and then also just like general engineering courses. What was the second part you asked there?
How many years? Of
how many years?
education? Yeah.
Yeah, so for most software engineering roles, you need to have a bachelor in engineering or a bachelor in computer science. But I know HNI, they don't define who can be in what role just by their major. So if you have just a general engineering degree, you can work across multiple different silos, because the problem solving is like Amy's gone into, very similar.
Fantastic. So you said there's 2 years you take of just general engineering classes before you specialize. Do those courses help you decide what specialty you want to go into from the coursework that you experience?
Yeah, definitely. So in my background, I was originally a biomedical engineer for the first year. And then I realized when I was going through that all the things I was most interested in biomedical engineering were the software related parts, all the interesting things that were being created to help with, for instance, like data, all the data involving biomedical engineering. And then I transitioned over to software engineering when I realized that the software was my main focus that I liked.
Interesting. We hear a data theme throughout many of these webinars that we do. So for those of you tuning in, if you've seen quite a few of them, data is a recurring theme and the importance of it and how to collect it and how to utilize that. So Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about your pathway to your internship? Because I'm guessing you do not have an engineering degree and maybe went a different route.
Right. Yeah. So my path to education. So I started 3 years. I was able to complete my degree in 3 years. Did a lot of fast tracking through some courses and took some summer classes, but was able to get done a little ahead of a schedule. But most of my classes were a lot more hands-on. So like I had metals classes, materials classes. I did take a couple programming classes. So my major in the program that I was in is kind of set up in a more broad sense. So it's a lot of it was a lot of exposure to different fields. And then I was kind of able to kind of narrow in on the last year of my program on which one was more interesting. And I went with the industrial side because kind of like Amy, I like being out and applying the product and getting to use kind of what you get to work on and build. So that's what I've chosen. And I've really enjoyed it. I would like to be a little more hands-on, but I take all that I can get. So.
Fantastic. It's great to hear that there's different routes you can go in engineering and that you have a foundation to start with so you know which direction you want to go. Amy, for those tuning in today, our middle school and high school students who might be with us, tell us what they should be looking at for classes while they're still going through their secondary experience.
Well, what I like to see, I think that math and science are really important. But those are just kinds of tools in your toolbox. You'd be surprised at some of the things that can make you a really fantastic engineer. Understanding how to communicate with people. So understanding the perspectives of people around the world, languages, English, all of those things can make you a really fantastic engineer. I think that especially for middle school and high school students, extracurriculars are also a great way to get some experience. Maybe you have some hands-on classes at your school, shop, woodworking, some of those types of things are excellent. But you could also do maybe a robotics club, even work experience in high school. Sometimes engineering firms will look for people who want to get a little bit of exposure to the field. So I think the most important thing is to try and make sure that you have a foundation, that you really understand the classes that you're taking, and that you're taking some time to find things that you're really passionate about.
Excellent. I think we've kind of heard that from everyone. I discovered I like data. I discovered I liked hands-on, those sorts of things, so that you can really follow the path of engineering that fits you best. So tell us about the outlook for this career. You're a manager, Amy. Are you looking for people? What types of people are you looking for? And what is that career outlook for engineers?
Oh, we have such a hard time finding people. So anybody who wants to become an engineer, come talk to me when you get your degree. We are absolutely looking for fantastic people, especially people who really enjoy Iowa and who want to live in the Midwest. We're looking for mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and industrial engineers and quality engineers. When I look for someone, the degree is kind of what you need to get your foot in the door, but then I'm looking for people who are passionate and curious and not afraid to try new things. And people who are fun to work with. So I'm looking for people who are excited about solving some of the problems that we have, and the outlook in the field is bright. I think if you look at some of the things that cars have done over the past, 10 or 15 years, we're starting to see those same things in tractors and in other types of construction machines. So we need more. Come work for us, please.
This has turned into a recruiting event.
I'm
Kyle, how about
interested.
you? Do you need some software engineers, maybe in your department or other areas of H&I?
Yeah, so similar actually to John Deere H&I, they have a lot of product engineering and quality and safety engineers. And then as of recently, like through the pandemic, H&I has been focusing a lot more towards work from home. So we've been growing very quickly to build new softwares that will make it easy to get office furniture to these people at home. So going into this e-commerce space. So yes, H&I definitely has a lot of software engineering roles that need to be filled, and more people coming on as these new products are being created.
That sounds fascinating. And the amount of teamwork that goes into that
Yeah.
to make sure that those are.
Yeah, there's a lot of collaboration in software engineering. While you're working on projects, and like some people will believe that software engineering is a lot of heads down work, you end up collaborating a lot with people throughout your day, getting testing done and working with business people to make sure that all the software is working and all of the requirements are met. So it's an exciting role to be in. And there's a lot across all jobs, there's lots of software engineering roles that are needed.
And one of those key skills that everyone needs launching their career is teamwork. So you can collaborate and work on those projects together successfully. Jacob, I realized we never really gave an introduction to what Musco is and what they do and what the career opportunities are there. So do you want to give us a little background on that? Because it's very different than both John Deere or H&I.
Right. Yeah. So Musco is a sports lighting company, is the official branding, but it's definitely expanding. They're doing a lot more I guess broader projects. So they're doing some like seaports, railways. They also do a lot of state park lighting, like they lit in the Statue of Liberty, Mount Rushmore. So a lot of national monuments. But what Musco does is a company will come to Musco and say, we want this lit. And then Musco provides not just a product, but they provide a solution. So they'll design the whole lighting structure from the ground up to meet the uniformity of light that the customer wants. So a big thing that they also do is a lot of NFL stadiums, MLB stadiums. They've done Arsenal over in London. So just a lot of cool projects, but they also work locally. So like, it's pretty likely that your Little League field is Musco lit. So that's what they do.
Super. So what kind of job opportunities do you see in your internship or needs that the company currently has?
Yeah, so kind of like what Amy was sharing, it's hard to find good people. But so anyone that's willing to work hard, is curious and is interested and just wanted to apply themselves in what they do, because a lot of like a lot of engineering fields, it's a solution. You're seeking to find a solution that often requires some excessive thinking and more in-depth thought. So I would say, yeah, industrial, a lot of it. Also, there's a lot of opportunities in research and development with rapid pace that technology is exploding. R&D is a very, very important field, and especially if industry is going to stay competitive. Musco has 85% of the market share domestically in America, and in order to keep that, they're going to have to be ahead of the curve and designing their new products.
So there you learned that there's some serious projects with lighting coming right out of Iowa. I don't know if everyone knew that today or not. Kyle, do you want to tell us too, because we didn't get there, about the main products H&I creates and how those might be found in places that you're very familiar with as well?
Yeah, so a lot of what H&I creates is workplace furnishings. So this includes like desks and chairs in office spaces, and similarly in schools. I'm sure that there's some of you might actually be in H&I furniture in schools, if you're in school right now. But
Fantastic. So we have 3 great Iowa companies whose products can be found all over, which I think is so exciting. I do encourage you to put your questions in the chat if you have any for our great panelists today. Are there emerging fields in engineering that students should really be looking into if they're interested in being cutting edge on careers? So Amy, do you want to start there and let us know what you think about emerging careers in engineering?
So one of the fields that I'm most excited about seeing more of is the automation field. When we talk about machine learning, one of the things that's going to make a big difference for our customers is doing things more efficiently. So everything from self-driving tractors, which Jacob might have appreciated today, who knows, all the way up to programs that can help you find the most optimal lengths of trees to cut down. All of those things make our customers more efficient. They make us use our resources better. And a lot of John Deere's innovations are around that automation and machine learning area. So I would be particularly excited to have more people come in with an interest in that field.
Are there particular classes or particular programs that you can go into for that, Amy, that you're aware of?
I'm sure there are some. A lot of times what you'll see is kind of a cross-functional background goes a long way towards making you effective there. So a lot of software engineering, again, we're going to talk about data. A lot of this is data coming in and then being able to model and interpret that data. So software, data analytics, even just math a lot of times is helpful. So very, very broad pieces that all come together to make it a field.
Kyle, are there emerging areas in engineering that you're seeing at H&I, especially maybe over the last year as things have evolved?
yeah, so I've seen a big push for cloud. And what that basically is just moving away from storing things locally at a company and having to manage that to outsourcing that to other companies like Microsoft or to Google, something like that. So anything that is involved in cloud is really, really useful, and almost every company is moving in that direction at this point. So I'm not sure exactly if there's classes that would be like in school that would help with that, but I know there's online resources that people can learn a lot about these new emerging technologies.
Fantastic. Jacob, any emerging areas that you're seeing at Musco?
Yes, for sure. So Musco has recently, in the past year, come out with a product called Musco Vision. And what Musco Vision does, it's a camera system that Musco installs completely from top to bottom that films and tracks the entire game. So like if you have on a baseball example, if you have a pitcher pitching and you have a batter hitting, the camera can track if the batter hit the ball, and if it does, it automatically switches cameras and tracks the ball and the player. So it tracks field movement. The same for football, basketball, and a lot of other sports. And a lot of that is structured around artificial intelligence. So that's a really, it's something that's really exploded for Musco in the past. I would say for sure less than a year. They kind of released it around COVID last year when a lot of the sporting events weren't able to be attended, because a lot of like TV events have professional camera crews, but your local high school might not have 3 or 4 people that are trained to run camera equipment. While this system is completely set up top to bottom by Musco, and you can stream the game from home, from anywhere. And it's a pretty big deal. And yeah, it's structured around artificial intelligence. So definitely a rapidly evolving field in engineering.
Wow, that's really interesting. I never would have considered that as an emerging occupation. Thank you all for sharing those areas. I'm going to leave with kind of reflecting on what you have done in high school or college, maybe outside the classroom, that helped you build some of the skills you have today that have contributed to your success. So whether those were clubs, organizations, athletics, what do you think are important things for students to get involved with so that they can be successful in the future? Let's start with you, Kyle.
So in high school, I was involved with soccer. So just generally, like, teamwork and communication is so big in any type of engineering. So I feel like in a team, you gain a lot of that, and additionally, outside of like sporting, doing personal projects. I personally worked on with a group of friends, like building an app to put on the app store, and just like kind of doing things on your own. And like for us, it took us a long time. We were failing a lot till we finally succeeded. So just kind of pushing yourself and seeing what you can do, be creative.
That personal initiative is so important to build and to take into your career with you. Amy, what do you have to add?
So I'm old enough that a lot of things did not exist back when I was in high school. Some of the things that I did that I think were helpful, in the early days of the internet, you could make your own little web page on old sites like Angel Fire and GeoCities. So I did that and really enjoyed the chance to kind of play around with software and see what you could build in a really structured environment. I was also working a lot when I was in high school, trying to pay for college. So some things like even just babysitting and tutoring, learning how to explain things to other people, how to deal with maybe some stressful situations. All of that ended up being more relevant than I maybe would have thought.
All of those experiences add up and then influence you in the future for sure. Jacob, how about you? What were you involved in, and how has that helped you get to where you are today?
So growing up in Iowa, I was a small town farm kid. Spent a lot of time outdoors, outside, helping out neighbors, helping my parents farm. But then I was also sought out other opportunities at local companies to just apply myself and learn. I'd say one of the most helpful things for me was working at somewhat of a structured company, was just learning how an organization works, learning how to interact with your coworkers and managers and people that are in leadership positions, and emulating and asking a lot of questions. I'd say questions is what's helped me the most in just kind of figuring out what I wanted to do, like talking to people about their experiences, something that so I could gain wisdom before even having to go through a situation that maybe they've been through, they can give me some guidance. So I would say questions, and yeah, kind of like what Amy says, just continuing to work hard and broaden yourself on the opportunities. It doesn't matter what type of work you're doing, just be open and be willing to learn.
That is a great place to end our session today. Be open and be willing to learn, take initiative, work on teamwork and communication and networking. You never know who you may have recruited today, right? For a future workforce. Amy seems excited about that. So we thank you all for joining us today, sharing your expertise and knowledge about the field of engineering. And we look forward to our next webinar with the Iowa Intermediary Network.